What's up, everyone? This is JOHTO here with the NPBA Season 14 JOHTO Power Rankings. I am joined here by Coltrainz. Say hi, Coltrain.
Hello, everybody.
All right, and we are going to be ranking all 16 teams in the JOHTO division. So, quick rundown for anyone watching. You're probably all in the JOHTO division if you're watching this. But we've got National Deck Singles, 9 to 11 Mons per team, 115 points, and then 25 points for Terra Captains. I think that pretty much covers it. So we both rated each team on our own sort of ranking system, and then I just added up the points we gave them, and then we ranked them based on that. So we're going to be going 16 up to 1. Coltrainz has got a bit of a system for ranking, so I'm going to let him explain that to you all.
Yeah, my system has a little bit more of a hard, objective facts on teams. Not saying that you need all of these things to have a good team. It's just stuff that I look for. Like your 3 type cores make up a couple points. Hazard games makes up a point. Some other stuff that I look for, making sure you're able to break waters, how good your Terra Captains are. The 3 points of it are a bit subjective for me. But my ranking goes out of 11 points. I think JOHTO, yours is out of 10.
Yeah, mine's out of 10. We didn't really coordinate our ranking systems, but I figured out of 11 and out of 10, we were close enough to where we could just add them together. So, yeah, I have a little more of a subjective ranking system. I generally look for certain things on each team, which I guess I'll explain a little bit more as we get to the teams themselves as to what I'm sort of valuing and not valuing quite as much. But it's also just I value a lot on just sort of do I like the team as a whole. Obviously, a fair bit of it is did you get all kind of your boxes checked, but given that we're in one of the higher divisions, most teams do that. So I was able to be a little bit more picky just on the team as a whole. Whereas, in some of the lower divisions, sometimes you got a lot more consideration for like, oh, this team doesn't have any hazard setters or something. So anyway, you're also going to notice my rankings have a little bit more of a spread from 1 to 10 on the ranking scale than Coltrane's do. I think yours are from like 7 point something up to 10 point something, and mine range from the 4s up to the 9s. Just as a heads up, so there's going to be a little bit
my
different
lowest team was just under 7, and my highest team was just above 10.
Yeah, so a little bit of a tighter spread just based on the nature of our rankings. So let's get going with the first team. The number 16 team is going to be Coach Polaris, also known as P Polarity. So I think we were pretty much in agreement on this team being one of the lowest ones. I think the first thing I noticed is it's just really, really slow. You have 2 Mons over base 100 and one that's 100, but both of those Mons they're both special attackers, and even the Ninetales is a special attacker, so you don't have any fast physical offense. And really, as a whole, your only physical offense is Melmetal. So right off the bat, I think you're lacking in not necessarily type diversity, although you are as well, but move type diversity, being physical, quite poor on the physical side. I think your defensive core is pretty solid with like Feeny, Mega Venusaur, and then like Mesprit / Hatterene, but I think it was a little redundant to get both Mesprit and Hatterene. There's obviously like a bit of a Trick Room idea going on with the Terrama Metal, which is a really, really strong Trick Room user, alongside obviously like the Hatterene that would set it up for you. But you also have this Sun idea going on, and I think it's kind of weird to draft a Sun core, but like not really go all the way with it. So I question how well it'll work, but I do see some of the ideas you're going for here.
I wonder if this team was suffering from some serious sniping issues. This just kind of looks like a team that looks like you had like an idea, and then in the middle of your draft, it kind of fell apart. When I looked at this team, seeing your fastest mon being Venusaur before it Mega Evolves is a little weird. Because you're going to want it's going to be your fastest mon typically, because you don't want to go a lot of the time lowering your speed on walking wake, and then you're going to be using your chlorophyll before you mega, and it's just a bit awkward overall. You don't have like a whole lot of momentum on the team. If you are, most of the time it's going to be Volt Switch on Sandy Shocks, which is going to be something that thuds into grounds. And you're pretty weak to ground. A Mold Breaker ground is going to hit your Mesprit. There isn't a whole lot of those, but it is worth mentioning. There's just like a lot of abusable spots on this team, and it just isn't very fast. Like Joe said, you do have like the trick room thing, but that's going to be your game plan pretty much every week. And if you have a team that thuds into the trick room, I think you're going to really struggle to take games.
Yeah, and there's good mons here. Like I think Terapagos can win games on its own. It's a type of mon that doesn't really need support, but if it needs any support, it's usually a fighting type, and we don't have that here. So yeah, I think just looking at the bottom of the type chart, you can see the stab types, and we're missing quite a few types. Most importantly is the dark type, and I would say a flying type, but we at least have levitate on Mesprit. Though I would have liked to have another ground immunity, especially on a team with 3 ground weak and only 1 immunity, not even another resist, is a little bit rough. So I think just going for the double psychic when you're missing so many other types, not only double psychic, double fairy. I think having like Feeny and Hatterene could be fine. I don't think it's necessarily bad to have 2 fairies, but then also getting the Mesprit, I just thought that was a bit redundant when we could probably just get one of the 7 types that you're missing and diversify your offensive profile a little bit, as well as perhaps add in a few new resistances that you don't have as many of. But yeah, I can see you got kind of like 2 split game plans here, and maybe you'll have weeks where it works out, but I would say I have the most doubt about this one working out.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing, I'm not super into speed tiers. We already mentioned the speed, but you also just like double up on 85, 80, and then that 109 to 100 bundle. You're just going to be allowing for a lot of greed from your opponents when it comes to non-speed boosting natures. And speaking of type resistance, since Melmetal is your Terra, and Melmetal is actually probably the best in Understeel. Most of the times you're probably going to want to Terra Steel him into Double Iron Bash. And if you do Terra, you lose a lot of your resistances kind of across the board. Feeny and Melmetal are putting up a lot of your defensive walls, but he's also like your main offensive guy. It's just a little bit awkward.
Yeah, I think it may, I've never used Terra Elemental. I imagine it probably goes steel a lot just to get that boost, but maybe you go fighting to break some steel types or ground. But yeah, like you said, if you then lose your steel, that type chart down there, which is already a little bit suspicious, gets a lot worse when you lose all those steel resists. So yeah, I think we've said enough here. I think we can move on to the 15th team, which is going to be Kelpo. So do you want to start this one off for us?
Yeah. When I looked at this team, when I was generally getting vibes, I kind of liked the look of it off the rip. And the more I looked, the kind of like less I liked it. Your Mega Latios, Gliscor, Heatramp, Florges core, fantastic. That's like a really bulky, still offensive core that I typically would enjoy playing with. But your next 3 picks, Sneasler, Regieleki, and Spectre, just completely veer off into a different direction that I wasn't expecting this team to take, personally. And it ultimately just ended up having this kind of weird game plan issue where I'm not sure exactly what you're looking to do with this team. A lot of the times you're looking to extend the game with your first 4, but then your bottom half is looking to end the game really quickly. And I just think in general, this team kind of has some issues getting these squishy guys in. Your only momentum moves is coming from Glycicor on your bulky side. You're going to be kind of reliant on hard switching, some mind games, some double switching to get these guys in. Whereas Sneasler, Regieleki, and Spectre are all extremely squishy. I just would have liked to see a little bit more pivoting and on a team that's like this overall, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I would agree with most of those points, and I would add a few things. I think my biggest issue, other than things that have been noted, is you have one physical attacker. I mean, we can calculate score if you want to say you have two, but if if you don't have Sneasler, I think everything's just gonna throw Assault Vest on you, and maybe you can like try to win through toxic, but like I don't think Alecki and Spectrier and Sneasler, maybe Sneasler a little bit, but they're not really trying to win with that game plan. So it's a little incohesive, or I don't know what the right word there is, but anyway, you can run physical Alecki, but I think it's pretty bad, to be honest. I think special Alecki is also, I don't think it's a good mon regardless, but the physical sets are even worse because you have to run Wild Charge. That being said as well, Alecki and Spectrier both have really poor type coverage. You know, Alecki, you're only going to get Electric and then whatever Terra you are, and then Spectrier obviously famously has very bad coverage. So having both of those on a team, like obviously you can have one and you can build around it, but having two when they're really not particularly well built around, especially the Alecki, I think it's a little rough. I like that you have good speed. I think that's definitely a positive. You have a very fast team. And the other one thing I wanted to say is I feel like it's a little strange to get Sneasler with no terrain. I don't think it has to have terrain, but I feel like this is a team that would love a Rillaboom because Heatran likes being with Rillaboom. Obviously Sneasler.
Florges, all of them just kind of in general.
Florges, and then even like Spectrier for like sub leftover sets appreciates terrain as well. So I think Rillaboom was taken by someone else, but it was a little weird to. I will have to go and check. I don't know if Rillaboom was taken before the Sneasler or whatever you were planning on, but that was a little bit unfortunate. And the last thing I would have to say is you kind of get destroyed by ground types with ice coverage because you have 3 ground weaknesses and the rest of your team gets obliterated by Earthquake, except for the first 2 Mons, being the 2 immune Mons. And if anything has Ice Beam, like, yeah, Latias will live it. Maybe not too bad for Latias, but Gliscor is getting destroyed. So, you know, we always say, like, every team loses to Mamoswine, but, like, this team actually loses to Mamoswine. And then if there's other, you know, Kyurem is kind of the reverse where it has Earth Power. So, I think that's a little bit rough as well.
I made a note on this team. Very similar. This team loses to the ground water specifically, and there are a couple of them that are relevant overall. There's typically going to be the bulkier types, you know, your Swamperts, your Gastrodons, etc. But they just have a hard time breaking the ground waters specifically. You don't really have any like super effective coverage against them unless you're going to tear your Regieleki into grass.
Which you probably are realistically. If you're facing,
you are realistically, but
yeah, if you're facing Swampert, you're going grass.
If you misplay your Alecki and you're kind of forced to bring it every week, which you're also kind of forced to bring your Spectrier, your team's going to actually run into a problem where I think you're going to be wanting to bring 7 Mons to deal with everything your opponent could bring at you, and you only got 6 slots.
And if you have to go grass on the Alecki, now Alecki is completely walled by grass types and dragon types, which you're not horribly weak to, but it's just kind of rough to have, like, obviously typically you want to go ice, but a lot of times you're going to have to go grass or maybe another type depending on the matchup. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think we can move on. Next up we have Sylvestron, and I think we're still mostly in agreement on this team being one of the lower end ones. You got to respect Big Raticate up at the top. Easily.
Yeah, the round 2 pick.
I would say of my 5.3 points, like 3.5 of them are just for Raticate. So good thing you got that guy. I think this team, and it's hyper offense, but I think it's too hyper offense. I am fine with a team being more offensive, but like you have, I'm gonna for a second not count Raticate. Your first 7 actual Mons are all like Giga offense. The only bulky one is the Raging Bolt itself. And then the only supplemental guys you have are really just not that tanky. Like, they give some hazard support, I guess. Like, Bramble and Illumise can remove hazards. Golem technically, I think, has rapid spin. I think that's actually just regular Golem. And they they obviously set up some hazards too, but they're really not bulky. So you have pretty much no defensive options. You're hoping every week that you can just outmuscle them, and sometimes you will. Like I'm not saying this team's going to go 1-7 or whatever, but yeah, if you get one wrong turn, you have to sack Mons in order to get back in position.
Yeah, can I talk about the main sin that I hate on this team?
Yeah.
I really hate Lele here. Lele is,
Oh yeah.
I think, the worst mon on your team, and you should drop it. I get why it's here, but you are killing your own Thunderclap, Urshifu's Aqua Jet, Weavile's Ice Shard. And those are big moves on all of those Pokemon. If you're going to be banded Urshifu, then you're going to need the Aqua Jet. You're going to be running Thunderclap almost every week on Bolt, and same with Ice Shard on Weavile, and that is just a weird anti-synergy that I hate on this team. It's lost like a lot of points specifically for that interaction. It seems extremely awkward to me. And Tapu Lele is like your second kind of bulky mon, which is weird to say that Lele is your second most bulky mon, but it is like your special wall outside of like Bolt. So it's going to be another one mon that you're going to want to bring most of the time.
Yeah, I had that on my notes as well. I just didn't want to talk for too long, but I think.
Oh, also, Prankster
yeah.
on Illumise, which is like one of your main defaughters, which is kind of unfortunate. You're just setting down a lot of your stuff with your own terrain.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it because defog targets the opponent, so it doesn't work in terrain. That did not even come to mind. But yeah, I think Lele. I think you just got to drop it, and I would also drop Excadrill. I think maybe you can pick up another ground and a steel and a fairy in some combination. Maybe only two of those types, but or you drop a low tier and you make it work. But I think Excadrill without sand is quite weak. I think some people like it. I just think you're overpaying for it if you're not getting it with sand. Like obviously you can speed boost with rapid spin, but on this team you're not really getting openings for that. So yeah, it's just I think it's going to be tough to make work. Like you have 7 offensive monsters, you can only bring 6 of them. So why not at least get rid of one and have at least a little defensive option? Your type chart is also really bad, but it kind of doesn't even matter because you don't have bulk anyway, so you're pretty much just weak to everything.
You're just looking to kill. It's a very matchup fishy team.
Mm-hmm.
And all of your hazard options are kind of fake. I don't know. They're just like there's a reason that you're not 16th because there are still good things about this team. It's just I feel like why JOHTO and I are like really going in on this is that it's just 1 or 2 mons off of switching into like so much better.
Yeah, this has really good pieces. Like I initially wanted to put it higher just because I really like the mons you have, but it's just like you just overdid it for me. So I think this is of the ones we've talked, definitely the closest to just being like if you make a couple changes, you'd move up. But for now, we got to keep you as the 3rd lowest. And are you ready to move to the next?
Yeah, I am.
All right. So next up, we got the weirdest team here. I don't know. You want to take this one?
The round 1 max attack stack attacka team. Yeah, this team is a little bit lower, but I think this team actually has some cool stuff going on overall. You got like your Samurai, like so you can guarantee your spikes. You got some cool stuff going on with Magic Bounce, etc. You got a lot of Trick Room setters. On my thing, I think about like half of your mons set Trick Room. And you have like the 2 most premier ones to do it between Stack Attacka and Pori 2. So like you have like a cool game plan that you're committing to. That being said, there is a lot of stuff that I don't like about this team. Specifically, it kind of has like this weird issue where you are full into the Trick Room, and Trick Room's an okay strategy, but it's not like the most consistent. Once again, it's kind of a matchup fish. And your hazard game outside of Samurott, it's not the best. You really don't want to run Stealth Rocks a lot of the time on Dancy or on Stack Attacka. And Rocks, even though we're in a post Gen 8, metagame where boots exist. There's still a lot of megas that are weak to rocks that you're going to want to be able to set them up against. You at least want to have the threat so that your opponent does bring boots on a lot of different Pokemon. Um, and you really ain't gaining a whole lot of points for me for having like Swirlix on the team for stuff like webs. It's cute, but like it's kind of like just here to be here. It's fine for the most part. Um, it ranks kind of in like my lower middle area. I don't particularly hate this team, but I just think it's kind of awkward to pilot.
Yeah, I have this team a bit lower than you. That's what's bringing it down quite a bit. Yeah, it's a little more in the middle for you, but this is one of my lower teams. So I think a couple things like you have the Trick Room idea, and also don't forget G King can set Trick Room as well as be a Trick Room sweeper. Um, but if Trick Room's not working out, your speed is very poor, and I think a lot of Trick Room teams still could benefit from a faster mon. I get like you don't necessarily want to invest in like a Zero Aura or something that's really fast when you're probably trying to go Trick Room, but then I feel like maybe you need to lean even more into it, as weird as that might sound. I suppose like Conkelder, actually, I wasn't really thinking about him earlier. Conkelder could be a good Trick Room user because, it's got what 140 attack close combats, so that could be pretty
Lovely cats
nice.
boost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think my issue is more. Well, yeah, you covered like the hazard game is bad, the pivot game is pretty bad, but other than that, like your immediate damage is a little bit low. You kind of need Trick Room to be up, other than your Mega Diancie and your Thundurus, which are most likely both special, given that your Stack Attacka and Rillaboom and most of your guys are physical. Um, those two being special, I kind of wish you had like a physical mon that could deal damage before Trick Room's up, and you have that a little bit in Rillaboom, Samurott, but those guys typically aren't doing quite as much damage. So yeah, I might have underrated this team a little bit. I still maintain it's one of my weaker teams just because I am not currently sold on the fact that this team will win. I see the vision; it might work out, but it's easier for me to put this team on the lower end as opposed to teams that I know are good. So that's mostly what brought it down.
Yeah, I mean, you still have some weaknesses that are here. Once again, you're another weak to ground team, even though you do have Rillaboom. Um, so you're just going to be looking out for like the earth powers, the high horsepower, stuff like that. Your like water switch-ins is just Rillaboom. Samurot's kind of a fake water resist. You don't have a ground type. There's just a couple different things that make it a bit awkward. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
no ground
I
type
think
was bad for me.
this team's okay. This team will win some games. Hell, I think this team could make playoffs realistically, depending on its teams it goes into.
Yeah, Weedy is very good, so this team will probably make playoffs realistically. But it's weird, and weird teams usually end up going a little lower in the ranks just because they aren't as traditional to what we view as being good. So I think we can move it along. Next up, we have Egotistical Elekid, which we gave the same ranking to, except on your scale, 7.5 is much lower than it is on mine. So I think I'll start because I actually like this team quite a bit. You'll see it's compared to the last four, quite a big jump up. Um, I think I really like I like teams that have Aloe on it, and I think it's very clear what every mon is doing on this team, which makes it very easy to analyze. I guess is the way to put it. Your offense is a little poor. You have to admit you really only have three attackers, kind of four with Scizor. Realistically, on this team, Scizor is probably more offensive because you have the Klefki. But Torn and Naganadel are going to be really powerful. I think Torn is one of the hardest mons to prep for, with Terra, obviously, with Nasty Plot sets, because it can usually run a multitude of types that you really can't wall it in the builder. And then Naga also very difficult to wall. It has very few checks. We have Nasty Plot banned on it, but Still very hard to beat, and then couple that with Sarah Ledge bulk up sets. So you got a lot of ways to win the game. It's just they know they can probably predict what's coming each week, just given that you only have 9 mons and realistically you have 8 mons, and the sets are mostly fairly predictable, other than the Torn Terra type, which is a big one. But otherwise, the mons are a little more rigid in what they're doing. But I think like you checked all the boxes. You got good hazards. You got pretty good removal. You got great pivoting. You have a very good type chart. You're a little weak to ground, but it's not that bad. You got the Yuxi and the Torn, so that should be fine. And yeah, I like this team quite a bit. So I'd love to hear what you have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, this team only scored a little bit lower because it doesn't hit my rubric as well. This is like the team that I could pilot as well. Like things that are on here is that your full type cores are like missing one or two types here or there. I really didn't like that you kind of thud into bulky waters just a little bit. You're gonna struggle to get through them outside of your Terra on like Tornadus.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you don't really have any stab anywhere to hit them. But I mean, you got a good game plan for the most part. You're gonna try to set up some hazards. You're gonna try to maybe set some screens, maybe set up a sweep here or there. Tinglu Lomomola is just going to be incredibly awkward to have to break a lot of the time. This team is looking to kind of like go away until your opponent makes a mistake, and then you can exploit it, which is a fun team to style that I like to use. It's nothing terribly bad. I mean, like Joe had said, from here out, the teams kind of like segment off. I feel like our bottom 3 or 4 were very obviously the bottom, and then our top 3 were, I think, a cut above the rest. At least me and my rankings was pretty easy. So this is like the first team that I'm like really starting to like, and you only lost some points because you just didn't hit the rubric well.
Yeah, and it's tough to check all the boxes. Whether you're doing like yours is more of like a technical rubric or just like sort of eye test. When you only have 8 real mons on the team, it's tough to do everything, and you did almost everything. It's just that like your offensive options are a little bit limited, I think, is the biggest thing. The breaking waters, what I will say is any water ground, which is a lot of bulky waters, Torn has grass knot for, and then Torn with Terra Electric is one of its better types because a lot of times you go Terra Electric to avoid Thunderwave. So yeah, I still think bulky waters are a problem that might force you to be a type that you wouldn't have already wanted to be. But I think they're not quite as bad as the roster would suggest.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
A lot of your guys are gonna be able to just click Toxic into them. So like,
yeah, that's a good point as well.
You have ways around it.
Yeah, and if there's a team that's going to Toxic stall, it's going to be this team. It's going to be a good win con for you. So yeah, there'll be certain mons that give you trouble. Like maybe I can't think of it right now. I'm sure there's some mon that like perfectly covers Naga and Torn, and then some other mon that covers Scizor Sarah Ledge, like a big fire type or something. But I think most weeks you should have the tools to make it work. So
yeah, unless you like run into like a literal Blissey, then you're fine.
Yeah, and Blissey's honestly, you can kind of abuse Blissey because you can just go into Scizor unless it's running Flamethrower. It can't Toxic you. You just start setting up. So I think you'll have weight, or you go into Tinglu and you hazard stack them, or like you'll have ways to abuse.
Game plans.
Yeah, like passive mons like Blissey that in theory beat like your offense. Your defense is like not passive. Like Tinglu is one of the least passive walls in the game because it's either going to cut your HP in half, or it's going to set up hazards, or it's going to do a ton of damage with Earthquake because it has really high attack. So, yeah, I think you win the defensive game quite a bit with how active your defense is, and then maybe the offense is a little lacking, but I think it should be enough. All right, we can move to the 11th team, which is High Pook. And You have this a little higher. I have it a little lower than the last, but I'd say it's probably on par. I can
Yeah, I
you
think
can go
they're
ahead.
roughly on par. Um, well, with this team, this team suffers into that awkward issue that I would describe. It's just going to be like a little weird to pilot into a lot of different teams. You have like this really bulky core between Corviknight, Toxapex, Clefable. I'm not really going to count Mishana or Amaldo into that category, but I guess you could. And you have tons of like U-turns, volt switches. This team's going to like constantly be trying to reposition and get into a good spot where you can break between Landorus, Zarude, and Megalops. So this team has like a pretty good like game plan idea that's trying to do. Although there's just some stuff on this team that I'm not the biggest fan of. Let me pull up my rubric here. Specifically, well, I like uh, Zarude as a Terra Cap. I think it being like your only real Terra Captain, and you're not going to really bring these two at the bottom, does make things a little bit issue. A lot of the like you're going to be getting out of your bug weakness that you have on Zarude, which is great, but I feel like you kind of gain some stuff from its base typing that you're going to be missing. I don't know. There's not like a whole lot. I mean, what I have here is like notes is like your speed tier drops from 101 to 67. You're really fast outside that, but that is kind of be kind of an issue, especially because 67 and 60 are like Fable Core, which might as well be 0. There's just some areas where this doesn't hit into my rubric very well.
Yeah, and weird as it is, 7.2 is actually kind of on the lower end of my scale. I had some really low rankings, but I did drop it a little bit just for that gap because when it's like 101 to 80 gap, yes, they are like Urshifus and they're Hydreigons. They're going to get to run Adamant and Modest, but they still have to run speed. Into Corviknight, if you have a base 100 Mon, like it's actually a pretty big issue. If you face a Mew or a Victini or like anything that's base 100, not only do they not have to run Timid, they can run Modest Adamant, they can run full HP. Like they don't have to invest a single point into speed. So, you're not only giving them a 10% damage boost, you're also giving them like a, I don't know, 20% health boost or whatever. So
And then and then
it's
I
not.
put in here specifically on that if they go Scarf as well, they can win like modest Scarf against this team, and then they're gonna outspeed your whole team. They kind of forces your higher speed tiers to also kind of go Scarf, which they don't want to do. Uh, it's a bit awkward.
Yeah, I mean, really the only thing that can scarf here is Raikou because like you can run Scarf Cinderace, but you really want boots. Lando, obviously, you want Life Orb. Zarude, you're typically not scarfing your Terra Cap, and obviously nobody else is running Scarf. So really, it's just Raikou, and I'm not a big Raikou fan. I think I think you're kind of a Zarude build around team, which I do support. I think Zarude's pretty good. I think it's a little overrated, but I still think it's quite good. You're gonna be going most weeks. It goes Fairy or Poison. Those are its most common typings, but I don't know how well it's supported. I think your only real what I'll say is Zarude plus Lando is a very good core. I think Lando breaks a lot of the mons that Zarude struggles with, which is usually steel types and poison types, which obviously Lando breaks both of those. But I think Megalop, Cinderace, Raikou, I think that's a little bit redundant because I think these guys are like fast pivots. Um, they want to get in, maybe click one move and then U-turn or Volt Switch out. I don't think you needed all three. I'm not quite sure what. I would probably put like a physical breaker, like something that just comes in and does damage on its own without needing to set up like a bulk up. Whereas Zarude usually wants to set up. Your Corv and your Clef as your slow pivots are nice, but it just feels like you drafted a ton of pivots that are going to bring in Zarude and Lando, and those are going to be the ways you win the game. And you got to really hope you play it perfectly and don't lose one of those guys because you might just run out of win cons if you're just clicking U-turn all the time. So
And speaking of the pivots, typically if you're running a lot of pivots, you want a lot of hazards. And you have like some okay ones with like it's only Clef realistically. You don't want to be bringing on Model, and you don't really want to be running rocks on Lando, which means you have like T spikes realistically, which you a lot of the time don't want to run on Toxapex, so it's just Stealth Rocks on Clef. And your removing option is pretty much just Corv. It just puts a
Yeah,
lot of pressure on your team in general.
I think just Corv is fine. I think of all Mons to be your only real removal, Corv is like the one. But I still see that. Like you don't want to be forced to bring Corv every week. You want to bring it most of the time, but it does limit you a little bit. And I still think it's good. It's like I'm saying, like, okay, you're going to be U-turning Volt switching all the time. You can also just get kills with Cinderace and click close combat with Lafani. It's not like these guys deal no damage, but they do tend to miss Okos compared to some other Mons. So they're the type of Mons that you might need the opponent to be at like 80% to get the kill with your close combat, or 70%, as opposed to like killing from 100 or killing after rocks. So yeah, I think I would cut just like one of those three of Lop, Cinderace, Raikou. I'd probably keep Lop because it's 135 speed, but one of those two guys you could.
Cinderace is probably the guy, but
Yeah, you can take your pick. I think like whatever you. I don't know what's even on the draft board. Realistically, there's probably nothing that's worth picking up. So I'm not saying actually like make this change, just like in a hypothetical. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's still a pretty good team. It's not like we're talking about bad teams right now, but just to nitpick on it, I still think Zarude is pretty well supported. You're just going to have to play it really well and not lose your Zarude. If you lose your Zarude, you might lose the game. But it's pretty well built around, so I can't hate on it too much.
yeah, I think we might have forgot to say this at the beginning, but I think we were a little bit harder because this is Johto, which is one of the top 2 divisions, than we would be if this was like a lower division. So
Yeah, this could be a fairly high ranked team in a lower division, but you're gonna see some of these top teams are just like ridiculous compared to this, and like yeah, this team is fine, but there's some crazy teams up at the top. So I think we can make our way up. Here we
top half
have
now.
no, top half is we're only at 10 right now.
That's just right. We're at 10.
Sorry, randomly intrusive thought that I wasn't recording. Okay.
We good?
Ooh, are we good? I really hope we are. It looks like we're recording. Maybe we're just gonna roll with it.
I mean, worst comes to worst, we probably just like reconvene.
Yeah, we'll just do it again if it doesn't.
Re-record.
All right. Well, hopefully it's recording. Hopefully you guys are actually hearing what we're saying right now. I'm pretty sure it is. The OBS thing says it's recording, but the timer isn't going up. So I don't know if it's frozen or if it's just a visual bug. But it says
I've had OBS freeze the timer before. It's probably just a visual bug.
Okay, perfect. All right, sorry to waste y'all's time on that. We have number 10 here, Pitro, and I actually have a bit of a lower rank on this. It was one of the last teams I ranked, so I didn't have a lot of notes because I was a little bit rushed. I'll let you talk about this one.
Yeah, this team actually is just like a team that hits my rubric exceedingly well. Just kind of have your type cores everywhere. You have enough of what I would consider a hazard game, even though I don't think it's like the strongest one. Tons of momentum, just kind of across the team in general. You have a lot of stuff that hits my rubric nicely. You have a nice offensive core up here with Kartana and Megaladios. You got a bunch of different options every week for mons that you have. That being said, I actually don't like this team a whole lot just off of the eye test. There's just something off about it. And specifically one of those things might be that you are like mainly your only defogger is Volcarona. Realistically, you don't want to be running on Megaladios or Kartana a lot of the time.
I
And you don't really have like
I think that's a generous statement to Volcarona.
Yeah. I mean, you can run bulky Volcarona, but it's not what you want to do. This team just hits my rubric very nicely. In fact, most of the points you lost were on my personal, like, subjective things.
Yeah.
So I ended up with a bit of a higher ranking from me.
I think this is sorry to hate on you, Pitro, but you're a mod, so you get to be hated on. I think this seems a good example of like it definitely in theory checks the boxes and hits the rubric, but the mons that are doing it are not that good. So you have three defoggers, and typically you want a team to have like three removers. You usually want to split some rapid spin, some defog, but all three of those defoggers are bad. I'll just say they're bad. I think Megaladios is probably you're kind of gonna run it as like a fake Megaladios on this team with like more of a bulky set, and you could run defog there. I don't really know. Maybe you just say you don't care about hazards and you're just gonna take the hazards. I don't know what you're gonna do about it because I think bulky Volcarona is like it can run defog, but it's not like a mon that comes in and out all the time. Kartana obviously defog's really bad on Kartana. And then when you get to the hazards, you have four setters. Berserker is pretty much fake. Annihilate. I've seen Rocks Annihilate. You might bring it, but it's not a reliable setter. So you have like two with Piloswine and Overquill, but you know they might not come every week. So you might struggle to get hazards up. You may end up having to run Rocks Annihilate a little more than you want. The hazard setting is not bad. It's still decent, but the removal is really where it gets you. My bigger issue here, in terms of things that are kind of good but kind of bad, is the speed tiers. The tiers themselves are good. You have fast mons, but your two fastest mons are kind of fake. Like Kilowattrel, Ambipom especially. I think Ambipom rarely will come, and Kilowattrel is it has some good matchups, but it's not that good of a mon. And I think with how good your offense is, like you do have very good offense, so 100% give you that. I don't see why you would ever bring Kilowattrel unless you're facing like I don't know, let's just say a Masquerada or something where it's like you really need that speed. And I think because of that, you're going to be forced to bring Kilowattrel in more weeks than you'd like to, and you're going to have to leave home like a good Mon in exchange for your fast Mon. So I think that takes the team down quite a bit for me. I think your type charts are good. You got every type in the game except Rock on the team, and you're not super weak to any one type. So you know you did most of that stuff right. You got obviously a ton of pivoting, but I think the speed and the lack of removal were the biggest things for me. That said, I love Terra Cartana. I think that mon I personally have used it. I think it should be banned. I allowed it just because I think most people do not think it should be banned, but I think it's really really strong. And that paired with the special attacker Megaladios, I love having like a 1-2 punch of a physical and a special. And I think that's like one of the best combos you could have made. So I really support that. I think that gives this team a lot of value. But a couple other flaws bring it down for me. So it's still pretty much in the middle. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Volcarona is like a bit redundant, but then you lose your fire. Like, what I would have liked to see is this team almost as like a fake like rain core. If you look at like Overquill, Manaphy, Kilowattrel, Primarina, you know, and then Kartana could even benefit from the rain if it hasn't terrored yet. Like, if you guys had like a Polytoad or something, I feel like it could have brought this team up a little bit on my personal ranking. I don't know what you drop for it, but you have like this fake rain idea. It's just not there. This team just it kind of like Joe had said. It kind of has a bunch of fake mons and like doing fake stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm not a big fan of going like half measures. Like we saw that other team that went like half sun. I don't really support doing that. But what I will say is I think the clear weak link to me, and I didn't even talk about it earlier, is the Manaphy. I don't really know why you have Manaphy and Prim. Like I don't think you're really ever bringing both, except against this one. There's this one team that we'll see later that has like only one water resist, so you can bring them both there. But yeah, I don't really think it makes sense to have both Manaphy and Prim, especially when you have so many holes in the team. You know, a very good core mons at the top. Like, why would you just get like another bulky water with flip turn? Like, obviously, yeah, you got Tail Glow. It does different things than Prim, but it's way too similar to justify holding a spot on the team, especially with Manaphy being like, I don't know how much it is, like 12 points or whatever. Like, you could get you get something real here. It's not like I don't care you got Berserker. You know, you use 2 points, whatever. You know, it's a cool guy. But Manaphy's really eating up a lot of your budget. That could be, I think, a lot more productive with probably just a better spinner or something like that. You want to move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
All right. We have a tie. There's another team after this. These teams got the same score. Here we have the Psy guy. You are a little higher than me on this one, so I'll let you start on this one.
Yeah, give me just. Let me pull open. Yes, this is actually my week 1 matchup, which if you guys haven't seen, I think we actually already battled. So uh, this team actually, I kind of vibe with this team. Uh, there's just like a lot of stuff that this team's doing pretty okay, all things considered. You got like a nice like start here with Samazenta Golden Yo. You got like Wish support from Screamtail, which they both appreciate. I think Terra King Gambit is one of the more scary Terras overall in this league. You're not really missing like a whole lot from your type cores. Your speed tiers look fine across the board. You got enough momentum. You got a bunch of hazard scissors. The really only area that you're kind of weak on paper is like your hazard removal. A lot of the mons there are either fake or don't want to bring it. Your only mon that you're gonna be bringing quite often is gonna be Thunderous, and you don't want defog on there. You have like the Terra like Avalug, which is like a great 1 point Terra. I don't know. I think it probably should have been more than 1 point, but it is Avalug that you're throwing on your team at the end of the day. Um, I think this team just is generally pretty all right. I don't think this team has any like auto lose matchups. Don't think it has any auto win matchups. But most teams you can play around with this team.
Yeah, I have pretty much a similar opinion to you. We just ended up on different numbers, but I think like what I really like is you get the Zamazenta first. Obviously, Broken Mon, gotta take it if it's on the board. You're one of the first she picks, and you're fighting type, so fighting types they don't like fairies, psychics, and ghosts. So psychic and ghost you just covered immediately with Goldango King Gambit. Both of them also break fairies because they both happen to be steel types. So all of the things that Zamazenta hates facing, you got two mons that can destroy them. So I'm sure there's some like weird combination of typings that doesn't beat. Maybe like technically Sableye and Spiritomb, but those guys are fake. So you supported the Zama well, and I think in turn on the flip side, Zama also supports your Terra Gambit quite well. So I like the combos here. I think where it fell a little flat for me, obviously I agree with the removal. Like you have 4 removal, but you kind of have 0 removal. You may end up bringing defog, like a defog Thunderwave Thunderous, so like a more of a support Thunderous a little more often than you'd like, which is okay, except for the fact that this team's special offense is it's subpar. I won't call it bad. It's still fine, but you're gonna be wanting offensive and defensive Goldango a lot of weeks because Goldango gives you a lot of resists and it checks a lot of things that could be a problem for you. But at the same time, you want an offensive because you want to be able to have like something to break a fairy type that's not weak to fairy or neutral to fairy like King Gambit is. So Goldango's great on this team. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just pressured to a lot, and when your only other real Camel is a guy, but your only other real special offense is Thundy. It's a little bit of an issue, especially when Thunder's not that strong. I think you can go Trick Room Screamtail with Camerupt, which is actually pretty good. That one's really scary in Trick Room. But yeah, otherwise, Hazard Setting is great. You got all the types except Bug and Rock, so that's good. You're really not too weak to any important types, I would say. The guys who are weak to it are mostly your low tiers if you look at the type chart, so I'm not super concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, like I like the team. I just think my biggest issue is I think you're going to have to play Goldango really, really well because I think it's really crucial to making the rest of the team function just with how important its typing is. But yeah, I really love Screamtail on King Gambit Zamazenta. I think those guys love Wish support. So yeah, pretty solid team overall. Do we want to move on?
Yeah, and you're gonna start with this one.
Right. Yeah, so I was much higher. I actually have this as my number 2 team overall. So you're fairly low on. This is one of your I think bottom 5 teams. I want to say.
Yeah, I actually don't like this team very much overall.
Yeah. So this is our biggest clash, and then ended up literally tied for the middle spot. So I guess that kind of makes sense. So let me quickly pull up my notes. I really like Terra Zero Aura. I don't think it's the best Terra in the game, but I think it's got to be top 5 among the things that we allowed. Of course, in a Nat Dex context, because you don't have Zero Aura in Pal Dex. So you have 3 guys at the top of the roster that all do very different things. They're all physical attackers. It'd be, in theory, nice if one was more special. You can run special Zera, but it's not that good. But yeah, 3 guys that all can win the game in different ways. Garchomp with a Scale Shot set, Mega Gallade with Sword Stance, and then Zero Aura. Typically, you can run Bulk Up or Calm Mind, or it can just be like a fast cleaner. I also think, even though, yeah, I don't even think your hazards are that bad. You have Skarmory and Garchomp, which both get both hazards, and then Tentacruel can give you your T-Spikes. Mandibuzz is a great remover. Tentacruel is a great spinner. I don't think Skarmory is a very good defogger, but you got 2 really good hazard removers, so I'm not worried about the Skarm. You also got spin blocking on your Sinistcha, and although I don't love non-Terra Sinistcha, I think it works very well here, giving you your well, you already have 2 flying types, but giving you a ground resist and then blocking rapid spin, I think is quite good here. Your special offense is a little lacking. That was my biggest point off from you, because it's really just Darkrai and Sinistcha, but they're still Darkrai. Like, it's not the best Dark Breaker or the best special breaker, but like 135 special attack, nasty plot, gonna be going pretty crazy. I think. And yeah, I think something you're not gonna like is that there's only 3 pivots, but they're like pretty good pivots. I think I can accept that as a bit of a criticism to it, but I still think this team is just really good. I think it's so strong and has so much synergy. So I'll let you say why it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, this team is like fine. I don't love Zero Aura as a Terra captain. It's a pretty strong one, all things considered, but your only one. And it's coming most weeks, so it's fine. There's just like some areas that I'm not the biggest fan of. There's a lot on Tentacruel's back that I feel like is here, and Tentacruel is like a fine water, but overall, all of your defensive mons, outside of maybe Skarmory, are like more so they're checks rather than counters for a lot of things. Your hazard game's fine, your removal game's fine. Like I said, I typically like to have more pivots on teams that have mons that are like Mega Gallade that really need to kind of come in safely, and then set up. So there's like a bunch of okay things here. Darkrai's like a really only real special attacker. You can run special Zera, but it's just missing some like a wow factor for me. I don't see like a really solid game plan. You're just gonna have to kind of like play around a lot of things. I don't know. It's really gonna depend on good play. You're not really getting like a whole lot off of your like type cores or anything. In fact, you're missing a lot from your type cores. This team just kind of hit like a bunch of like partial points for me, so it ended up lower on my rework overall.
Yeah, not having a fairy is definitely really tough, and I would say Regirock, clearly the worst mon on the team. Maybe we can get a low tier fairy. I think um, just getting something in there could be beneficial, so you don't just get Draco spammed. But you're not bringing it that often anyway, so it's fine. That's just going to be one of the flaws of the team. And then I think, to counter my own argument from earlier, I do notice of your big 4 attackers being the Zero Aura, Garchomp, Gallade, and Darkrai, 3 are weak to Fairy, and you have a Poison and Steel that are both very bulky, but they're not good at breaking fairies. Zero Aura obviously doesn't get Terra Blast, so I don't know if it gets Poison Jab, but you do have coverage.
I
I
don't
mean,
think it does.
Garchomp can, all 3 of the others hit fairies. Like Gallade has Poison Jab, Darkrai has Sludge Bomb, Garchomp has Iron Head. I don't know if it also gets Poison Jab, but like they have ways of killing fairies, so I'm not super worried about that. I just think the damage output, like the raw breaking power, is super high on really all of them except Zero Aura, but then you have Terra, so that should make up for the power gap. I think it's going to be like, I really like immediate offense. I think I like teams that don't need to set up. Like all of them can set up. Every mon on this team can set up pretty much. We can even throw Sinistcha in there. But they also can pretty much deal damage without needing it. So that's a style play I really like. So that's why this came up quite a bit for me.
And hey, Joe, would you we able to put like a quick pause on the recording or not?
Um, I don't know how to do that, but yeah, I'll just stop recording.
All right, give me just a.
All right, we are back. Apologies for the random stoppage there, but we are ready to move on to the seventh team. This one is King Clyde, and we were both on the higher end on this team. I think I gotta just get my notes up real quick
Yeah.
because we got a little distracted there. But yeah, so my initial thought, obviously, top three mons here are broken. Hershey single with Terra and then Mega Maw are like really, really hard to wall. Both of these are mons that have like very limited checks. They have checks, but they're quite limited. And if you have both of them, it's not guaranteed that every team you face will have a way to beat both of them. Like most teams can beat one of them, but I would say most teams cannot beat both. And then, of course, Dragapult is broken in different ways with set variety. And on this team, it's going to be pretty much always a special attacker just because of how physical you are. But that's fine. It's still pretty good. Moving down the team, I think Slowpo's a great enabler. I think he gets Trick Room. I'm not 100% sure for Mega Maw,
Yeah, I
but
think it does.
yeah, I know G King does. I don't know if it's Slowbro. I assume it does. Regardless, you got Teleport for your Mega Maw, which is really, really good. I do wish you had a better ground than Gligar. Slowbro pairs very well with grounds. Obviously, like the best would be like a Lando or a Gliscor, which obviously you're not going to get because those are like round 2, round 3 mons. But yeah, Gligar, like it does what those mons do, just way worse. So it would be nice to have a better one, but you'll take it. I think you kind of fell off the rails at the end here. I think Ogerpon I like. Savali is going to have to be your poison type because you didn't draft a poison, so that's a little unfortunate. But it gives you defog, which you kind of needed. You only had Gligar. But like, why did you draft Sand? Like, why did you randomly get Gigalith with Stoutland at the end? I think that was just a really strange usage of points where you could have just gotten a poison type, which would probably serve you better. Like I just really, really doubt you're going to have a matchup where Mega Mawile Urshifu isn't doing enough for you, but Sandrush Stoutland is going to be the game changer for you. I just think that's very unlikely. So yeah, that knocked you down a little bit for me, but like obviously if you just ignore those guys, it's still a really good team.
Yeah, I think I would have liked instead of a Sandcore, we got like a special breaker in that spot instead. There's a lot that's on like Gligar's back here. I mean, you do have spikes, that's even though it's not showing on here on your Ogerpon. Um, but Gligar is kind of like, Savali is a defogger, but you really don't want to have to slot Savali into a defogger. So you're gonna be bringing Gligar most weeks, but you do have like the most offensive breaking core. That's just kind of like raw power right off the gates out of Mega Maw or Shifu Dragapult. This is like one of those teams that like you have to start nitpicking on to like find things wrong with it. You got good webs set up for a bunch of your guys because you're not like the fastest team, but you're not the slowest either. Uh, there's a bunch that's just fine here. It's just like you got some weird spots. Like Joe's already brought up. I don't know why we have the sand core here at the bottom. I'm not sure when you'd want to Terra Glastrier over Shifu most weeks, but it's a fine secondary Terra. It's just fine most part overall.
Yeah, Glass felt like it was probably you just like had the points for it, so you just threw it on there. I don't really know when you're gonna bring it. Maybe you have a Trick Room week where you bring Glastrier and Mega Mawile. That actually could work. But
Yeah, like a Glastrier or Mega Moss Slow Bro week.
yeah, that could be something. I think my biggest issue. I really do like this team. I think it's pretty solid. It's just that it kind of feels like Gligar has to come every week because it's your only ground immune. You have two fighting resists other than Gligar, but both of them are weak to similar types, being Dark and Ghost. So like knockoff spam. Gligar also doesn't like knockoff, so that's another issue. But a lot of fighting types get knockoff. So yeah, that's a bit of an issue. going to be a little weak to some fighting types depending on their coverage. Definitely going to be weak to ground. And yeah, you're just going to have to bring that mod a little more than you'd like to. It's fine. Like, it technically works. It technically will defog and set hazards and pivot for you and like do the things you want. It's just going to do it so much worse than a Lando or a Gliscor would. If you could, like, you obviously can't get those mons, but if that Gligar was either Lando or Gliscor, this team would be like a few spots higher, just because that's a mon you want to bring every week. Not much you can do
Yeah.
about it. Those were obviously
I mean,
sniped, but you know.
for a lot of the time, I feel like you're just going to bring your first 6 Pokemon for most generic matchups, which is kind of
And
awkward to
and
have like
Ogerpon.
Ogerpon down there at the bottom. But I still don't know what you swap out for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Silvally would be the easiest cut because I think Ogerpon is really good. But yeah,
Yeah, but in those matchups where you are like super weak to knock off, you're gonna need like Slavali Fairy or like Slavali like Dark or something weird like that. I don't know.
yeah, but two things on that. At the very least, Mega Maw is immune essentially to knock off. Urshifu really doesn't care that much. And then if you do bring the Ogerpon, at least Ogerpon can't be knocked either. So, while the other three I mentioned, Dragapult, Slowbro, Gligar, hate it. Yeah, you do kind of have four Mons that really don't care about knockoff that much. So that's nice. Yeah, this is a good team. I mean, it's 7th on the rankings, pretty high up.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think we'll move on. So we're going to 6th, which is going to be Ace Harm 555. Do you want to head on this one? You have it pretty high up.
Yeah, I mean this team hits like a lot of really nice things on my rubric. You got like your 3 setters, your 3 removers. You got all of your type cores. Um, it's not like a really like whole lot that I dislike about this team overall. You kind of just have like your game plan that you're sticking to every week. Where like you're not like the bulkiest team, but you have some good bulk. You're not the most offensive team, but you do have like crazy breakers like Huron Black, Terra and Amorous, Mega Scizor. This team is just going to play its game plan, and if it wins, it wins. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it'll be a pretty consistent game plan every time. The only like super awkward thing that I would say is like even though you are like up there in your speed a little bit at like the 122 with Greninja and your 113 with Superior, you don't really have like the fastest Pokemon, if that makes any sense. Like they're both fast, but like not real fast. And you're not
Yeah,
gonna always want to bring Superior, especially without Terra.
yeah, that's true. I think a lot of weeks your only Fastmon will be the Serp. And Amherst still 106. Like, you're gonna outspeed the very common base 100s and even base 105s, which is nice. But yeah, you don't have a Zeraora or a Dragapult. Like, 122 is on the lower end of top speeds. For like, if you just looked at every team and just took their top mon, it's on the lower half for sure, just being at 122. But like, it's
Yeah, I'd say
still
like the
good.
minimum you'd want for your fastest Pokemon is 120. So like
Yeah,
you're just barely hitting it.
there's a couple teams that do not hit that 120 mark, and I think those teams will suffer a bit. And this one is like just right above it, but you're still getting outsped by most. The most notable one is Meowscarada being 123, which actually you have a Mega Scizor, so like that one's fine. But yeah, lots of base 125s and 130s that are going to be a little bit annoying for you.
So many
But
Mons in the Nat decks now that are 130 plus.
yeah, there's just a ton of megas, and we see, especially with Mega Arrow and Mega Beedrill, like both of them got drafted, so just more guys to worry about. And Mega Alakazam is unbanned in this one, so it's fine. Like, it's not like it's a slow team, but it could be a touch faster. But that isn't really my complaint with it. I think it's very good. I think Kieran Black and Amorous are incredibly powerful breakers that work quite well together. And you get a ton of resistances and immunities between those guys plus Scizor, so they cover a lot of the type chart for you, mainly in Amorous and Scizor. And then you get slow pivots to bring him in with Rotom and Deoxys. I kind of like one more, but you only have a 9-mon team, so you kind of get what you get. The big thing is, I think you're going to struggle a little bit to break steel types. You have the Enamorous, which you're gonna Terra ground. I think maybe a little more than you'd like to. You probably want to get that Terra Stellar set in there sometimes, but especially grounds or especially things steals that aren't weak to ground, like a Bronzong or something like that. They can give you a little bit of trouble. You do have the Nidoqueen, which helps cover. I just would have liked to see a better fighting. That's kind of where I was going with that point. I think maybe you can forgo the Superior, although that makes your speed a lot worse. But I think getting a better fighting than Beware
I don't know. I
could
don't
help
think you
out.
can forgo the superior. If you forgo superior, then you're really struggling to break now both grounds and waters.
Not grounds. You have Kyurem and Greninja, but waters, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. So I think that's something like I don't know if there's necessarily a change you can make. Beware is bringable. It's not a useless mon, but I would have liked to see a little bit of a better fighting. We're nitpicking here. We're on the sixth best team. Like this team is clearly very good. I think I generally don't like Deoxys defense, and I think it's pretty good here. Just mainly just because it gets teleport and it gets both hazards, and that's really all you need. Just run one of the hazards, run teleport, run Thunder Wave or Toxic, and then Seismic Toss or Psychic or something like that, and it'll pretty much always have a use. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't want to go up against this team. I think it's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, it's just generically solid, kind of just across the board.
Yeah. All right, let's move to number 5, and actually it's a tie between 4th and 5th. We got the Rain team here. I'm gonna let you talk because I need to drink water.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more of a rain merchant. I've drafted rain in the NPBA a few times. I think I got it to semis once in Johto, so I like rain. My personal gripe with you is that you've just sniped me the whole draft, and I hate you. I hate you so much on a personal level. Uh, round 2 Archaludon, who does that, man? I was gonna take him round 2, and then you take an Ogerpon from me. You've taken my Thorns. But outside of like personal grudges aside, this team has like a lot of fine stuff. You have like wishes for Archaludon from Sylveon. You have your speed tiers looking just fine. They hit like every number that I'd be looking for. Um, you have good hazards. You have not the best removers, but like not the best removers. Not the best removable game, but your 2 removers are good. Um, lots of momentum. It's just bundle. You're going to miss your hydro pumps sometimes, and you will just lose. That's probably my biggest point against this team is that you're just going to need to hit your pumps, and if you hit them, you win. If you miss them, you lose. Uh, and Girafarig is kind of carrying you on my rubric a little bit because I decided to give it points as like a psychic type, but like it's kind of a fake mon down there. There's just not like a whole lot that I hate here. It's just kind of like a solid, okay team across the board. The Archaludon is going to be your Terra most weeks. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm not even considering Iron Thorns or Incineroar. You're going Terra Chalodon. I think the one consideration you have is some weeks you actually might want Iron Bundle, and you might transaction a Terra Captain from Archaludon to Iron Bundle. I think there's an argument for this team to Terra the Iron Bundle instead of the Archaludon, because you don't want to miss your Hydro Pump, so you can go Terra Water. Just get Terra Blast, or whatever typing you might need. But yeah, I think you can justify it either way. Especially if you're taking round 2 Archaludon, you probably should Terra it because that means you're really committed to it. But there could be a reconsideration later to swap over to the bundle. Um, yeah, I'm usually pretty low on Rain. You can see my ranking isn't particularly high. It's still in kind of that middle tier for me. I wouldn't quite push it into the top tier, although it does kind of approach that level. Obviously, you did the weird thing with the Petra round 1, but when you're drafting Rain, it kind of doesn't matter that much. You still got your Zapdos, so you got the good mon for Rain. Yeah, I like Ogerpon a lot. I think every Rain team needs a Grass type, and now that Ogerpon exists, that makes Rain a little bit better because you break their waters very well between Zapdos and Ogerpon, so they're not abusing your Rain back towards you. And yeah, you kind of got the Rain Mons. You did the thing. So it's going to be a solidly ranked team. Can't really complain too much.
Yeah, like this team, it knows what it wants to do, and if you pull it off, you pull it off, right? Like,
Yeah, I think Rain
yeah,
generally does pretty well. I think it's still the best weather. I don't know if it is in OU, but I think it's still the best weather in draft. So yeah, especially with Okerbond now existing. All right, we are now on Devon slash Smeargle. Um,
even though mine shows a 9, I think I'm gonna let you lead off with this one because I think you getting closer up to 8 is a little bit more impressive than my rubric on 9.
yeah. Okay. The first note I had on this team that I wrote, I actually only wrote one line. It's why do you have Vanillux? Like, why do you have Vanillux on this team? Like, this team is pretty good. I like it, but why is Vanillux here? I don't know what that's supposed to do. I guess it's Aurora Veil, but like, you're not even a team that I think particularly needs Aurora Veil. And also, like, yeah, it's just weird. But
And if it
I
was
don't.
like Ninetales instead,
Yeah, if it was Ninetales, it would be way better. You don't even have. Well, you do have a fire. You have Talonflame, but at the moment you drafted the Vanillux, you didn't have your fire yet. And that other team that got the Ninetales got it way later in the game. I don't think you need to go and swap it to Torkoal. Like, I wouldn't pay that many points, but it's a strange choice. It doesn't really matter. It's a low tier. I just thought that was kind of weird that you got it. I think this team is really strong, really fast, has very good hazard setting, has decent hazard. Actually, no, it has really good hazard removal. I forgot. Yeah, we got spin and we got 2 defoggers. So you're pretty much checked all your boxes of like your basic things you need. You've got a very good pivoting. I would say a little bit of a lack of a slow pivot. Like Rotom is mid speed and you're not going to invest speed all the time. But you don't have a teleporter. You don't have like a negative priority pivot or like a 30 base speed U-turner or something like that. It's just like a nitpick, but your pivoting is good. So you have ways to get in your Alakazam and your Moon and your Tusk. And I think the game plan is clear. Like stack some hazards up with your Pharaoh, chip away with U-turns and Volt switches, and then get your Tuscan to set up with Terra or your Alakazam to set up with Nasty Plot and just win the game. You're a little physically biased. I think Lycanroc is probably redundant here. Just with Moon and Tusk, I think you pretty much covered everything, but yeah, not a big deal. It's still a good mon. Yeah, I like the team a lot. I think it's one of the best for me.
yeah, this team is a little bit less of the bulky offense. You don't really have like reliable recovery on anything, but I don't think you really need it. You're not looking to like take this team super long. Looking to maybe pivot around once or twice and just continually switch in Zam or like Moon or your Terra Tusk to just to launch out unwallable moves for the most part. Um, it's pretty solid. One funny thing that I noted here that you can also see on the graph, everything has taunt, which is actually kind of nice.
Oh, that's really funny.
Kind of hard to cheese actually because of that. Uh, this is good stuff. It's
Hold
kind of
on.
across the board.
I don't think Vanillux. Oh, it does. There's one mon on the team that
There's
doesn't
like
have
one
it.
mon that doesn't do it. Uh,
Pharaoh?
I think it's Wash, right?
No, it's isn't
It's
it
like two.
Pharaoh?
Yeah,
Hold
it's like
on.
Wash and Pharaoh.
Pharaoh and Wash don't have it. That's actually unplayable. This team sucks.
Yep.
So yeah, no, definitely a good one. Yeah, I think you're definitely trying to win pretty fast. I think you've got a lot of mons that are like they come in and they try to like go more than 1 for 1. Like they're not necessarily going to sweep. You can sweep with them, but if you go in with your Moon and you get like a kill and a half and then it dies, and you send in your Tusk and you get the other half of the kill and kill another mon and it dies, like you're up a lot and you probably have hazards up. You could probably then just clean up with Alakazam. So pretty good game plan. Pretty good type coverage. You have a lot of different stab moves between Tusk and Moon, just having really good stab duos. Maybe a little fairy weak. You obviously got 3 fairy resists, so not too bad. But of your
No, let's say you're not particularly weak to any type in in particular?
No, I more mean like offensively. Some fairies will wall you,
Yeah.
but like because you don't have an offensive. You can run if there's a fairy that walls you, you can run a more offensive like a gyroball Ferrothorn or something. If you really need it, you can do it. So I'm really not concerned. Yeah, I'm ready to move on. I think this team's really good.
Cracking into our top three here.
Yes, you can go ahead.
So we got Crook here. So Crook started off with the Terra Victini, which is actually I kind of vibe with. Victini's like pretty strong, especially when you Terra him just to like go Fire V create. He's got a lot of coverage options. So even though I don't think he's in Gen 9, so he doesn't have Terra Blast, I don't think he particularly cares.
No.
Um, you have tons of momentum across the board. You got all of your hazards, setters. You got good removers. Um, momentum everywhere. You just have a lot of stuff to break most teams. I know when I was talking to you, you asked what mon you should be taking in your fourth slot, and I recommended Keldeo because it just kind of closes all of your type cores really quickly. Uh, and it helps you get that special that you were kind of lacking with your first three. And I think it ultimately worked out really well here. The only thing that I can really say is this one. Once again, this is like much like the Greninja team. You're capping out just above 120 speed, which will hurt you in some matchups. But you actually have a lot of really good scarfers. Most of the mons that are in like your higher speed tiers and like your middling speed tiers actually don't mind the scarf. So it's fine. This is pretty solid. I don't think you auto lose to anything. You might actually have some auto win matchups with the Victini. Um, pretty solid.
Yeah, in terms of scarfers, I mean, just the top four, all of them can be scarfers. Like, you'll run Scarf Meow into like the Dragapult team probably, and then of the other three, probably every week one of them's gonna scarf, and the other two are gonna do something else. I'm very high on Terra Victini. I think it's a contender for kill leader. That and like Kartana and Melmetal, probably probably the three most likely kill leaders for me. Um, but yeah, you're gonna have to make sure it stays alive. So you got pretty good hazard removal to make sure it can run items besides boots, which it gets a little forced into, which is like the one downside of that mon because you do usually just click the creating U-turn. But you got two good defoggers and an okay spinner, so that works out pretty nicely. Um, like to be as nitpicky as I possibly can, I think it's like this is like so fake. Like it's a little light on a special breaker, I would say, but like Victini just breaks everything, so it kind of doesn't matter. Like Keldeo, Altaria, Nihilego, like they do very good damage, but they don't have like super high base power moves that are just gonna like destroy everything. Like they don't have a V create or a close combat or something like that in their arsenal to really break through things. But like it just doesn't matter. You're just gonna use V create to break everything. Uh, I don't know I don't know really what Ursaring does, but it's fine. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, the rest of your mon are so good. Even the belly bolt can reliably Terra. I feel like for what probably like 5 point Terra that this thing costed.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're having to like the Heatran matchup for Victini, then you could easily go Terra belly bolt or something like that.
Yeah, and like Heatran's still like you have Lando and Keldeo, like you destroy Heatran. Altaria gets Earthquake. Meow gets Low Kick. Like you don't. I don't really think this team's gonna have bad matchups. It's just a matter of like how good they are. Obviously, Crook, being by far the worst coach in the league, gonna have some trouble. But
Mm-hmm.
at least the team will help make up for it. So yeah.
They say worst coach. I think the second worst coach. I got our worst coach coming up here in the number
Uh,
2 slot.
that's a good point. That's a good point. It's gonna be a battle for last place between you two. But yeah, I think we spoiled who's next. But I think we're gonna move on to Coltrainz here, who I
Yeah,
think
I'll let you
yeah, I
take the
think
reins here talking about it.
I'll go first. So let's see. You had fifth pick. Um, let me let me just read what I wrote on my notes page. Coltrainz gets graded harshly because he sucks. Um,
True.
no dark type, -5 points. You can tell this is a Coltrane's team because every Mon pivots, but no pivot on Hitmonlee and Hydrapple is a big L, -5 points. This is literally word for word what I wrote. All right, I'm going to stop reading exactly what I wrote. So you're already at 0 points. Unfortunately, you brought it back up to 8.5, which is I think the third highest score I gave out. You could argue it should be even higher than third, but yeah, you have pretty good removal. No, you have Iron Treads. Never mind. Your removal's insanely good. My one gripe on hazards was like I think you could appreciate spikes, and you don't have spikes here. Your setting is pretty good. You're never running T spikes B drill, but like so you really only have rocks because that's a horrible move on B drill. You do have 3 good rockers. I would say all 3 of those guys can run rocks pretty well. So you're at least getting rocks up every week. I just think like if you could get either a T spiker or a spiker, more likely a spiker on here because you don't want to double up poisons, could help out. Again, I don't know what you cut. I don't think any of these mons are bad on your team. It's just I wish there were spikes. Then I really like to look at breakers. That's kind of my biggest thing on every team is you have breakers. And physically, you definitely do because although Palafin needs a turn to turn into Palafin, like it is a breaker once it's the big one. Mega Beedrill has crazy damage, and on the special side, I think I actually really like offensive Moltres here for you. I assume you drafted it with defensive in mind, but I actually think it functions on your team as more of like an offensive breaker. Like it's got 125 special attack, Hurricane, Fire Blast, Flamethrower, all doing a lot of damage. Especially because Coco Treads both are on the lower side. They're more like really good overall mons. They give you like hazard and pivot and stuff, as opposed to just being like raw power. So anyway, that's kind of my take on the offensive side of things. Defensively, it's pretty good. It's not the best defensive team, but Moltres Treads, Hydrapple with no Terra is a little sus, and then like Blissey. The only issue on that core is you have no ice resist, and I think I'd say that's one of the weaknesses here. Is while you have ice resist and iron ground, so maybe I can't complain about that too much. I'm yapping a lot here, but it kind of depends what you bring each week. You might have a few types that can get you, but I'm being pretty in the weeds here. Um, yeah, I think I haven't even talked about Iron Crown. Terrain with Crown with Terra, getting all of those on one mon. You just get to boost up your damage so much. Terrain with Treads, I think, is a little overrated, but you have the Crown, so you're at least utilizing it. And Terrain with Hitmonlee, so you have the special sweeper with Crown and the physical sweeper with Hitmonlee. If you want to go with an unburdened set, that could also be pretty good. So overall, not very many flaws. They're all like minor things that just take off like decimals of points to get you down to where I have you, but definitely one of the better teams. You can say whatever you want.
And imagine that my team hits the points that I typically look for on a rubric. Imagine that. Crazy.
Yeah, it's
my team was at the top of my own rubric.
It's the Obama handing the medal, putting the medal around Obama meme.
Yeah, and to be honest, most of the time when I draft, I feel like my teams actually end up on the lower end of my rubric, but this team actually hit it pretty nicely this time. This team took like 5 or 6 full redesigns throughout the draft because Connor Randall specifically was just like taking the mons I wanted like half the time. So I'm surprised this team even ended up this well. I really did want the Iron Thorns Terra, but then I would have had to drop either Blissey or Hitmonlee here at the end. So who knows?
You would have gotten less points from me if you had it.
Exactly. Right. So yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from. Where Moltres definitely wants to be a little bit more specially offensive. It really is just my Crown that is like the real like special offensive breaker. Etzelf can do it sometimes, but like, what is Etzelf doing that Crown isn't already? It's fine. Like you can tell it's my team because, like you said, there is like pivots everywhere. And thank you very much. It only does have baton pass. Thank you. It's really just Hydrapple. Uh,
Wait, who has it?
Hitmonlee does have baton pass. It's
Oh,
technically
honestly,
momentum.
I didn't even see that. But if you rapid spin before, then you lose the game. So
Yeah, then you lose the game. So yeah, like it's a CocoTreads team. It's kind of hard to go wrong when you just have like the generic core here. Uh, bulky, bulky offense like I tend to draft.
yeah, I think this should work out pretty nicely. I think yeah, you do have the Crown Azelf thing, which like a little bit redundant to have two psychics, especially like on a type that's one of the less important types. But I see Azelf kind of doing like a speed gap filling thing there. You don't necessarily need to fill 130 to 106, but it does different things for you. Like if we were to cut them on, I'd be like Azelf and Blissey, but I see what they're doing here. I also don't have like a thing that I would replace them with because the team has all of the things it needs already. So yeah, they'll come not quite as often, but they do things. Blissey less so, but that's fine. You'll bring it
I
into
mean, if
like
they do come, they have a reason to come, right?
yeah, like you bring the Blissey into that team that has like Spectre and Regieleki. Azelf, I don't know. You may very rarely bring Azelf. I don't know if like just because like you have better mods. It's not like Azelf is bad. You just have guys that do more. Like yeah, again, it's not like there's some mod I need you to pick up to make the team good. Oh, I had one more thing. You don't have a dark type. I actually think this is a pretty major problem. So maybe if I was gonna make a change, I would find a way to get a dark type on here. Um, that was actually the biggest thing keeping me from moving you up, just because pretty much everything else is good. It's just you have good psychic resists, but I think I would like a dark type. I would like people who are spamming stab knockoffs as opposed to the non-stab ones. But you do have a lot of knock users, so it's still good. Like you're fine. It's not that big of a deal. You want to get to the final team?
Yep, our final team with like our cheater who always ends up in the first seed. I swear I've done PRs and modded. I swear this guy gets first seed about 50% of the time. And I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. So a lot of people think I randomize the draft order. I actually just put people wherever I feel like it. So I always like to give Couch Cat the first seed just because he cooks up stuff like this. So I have this as my top team. You have yourself as your top team, but you have this as the second team. So this ended up being the highest team, and it's just so strong. Like Iron Val, I do believe Iron Val is the best mod in the format. Even with all of the Terra captains that we allowed, I still prefer Iron Valiant. Um, but then with Valiant, you still got like one of the best Terra caps. Um, we got to be obviously a physical attacker, so like Valiant with the gouge, you're probably going special Valiant most of the time. That's fine. You can go physical if the matchup calls for it, but usually it's going to be special. I think that's not really an issue though. I really like when there was another team that had like the Garchomp Mega Glade team where you have like three really good attackers that all do different things. Like they all win the game in different ways. Gouging Fire is going to be like the D-Dance sets, Ogerpon with the Trailblaze sets, and then Iron Valiant usually with just having booster energy and cleaning up the game at the end. They all have like different mechanisms through which they can win, and then the entire rest of the team barring maybe the Pidgeot, is just built around supporting these guys. You get crazy good hazards, pretty good removal. Maybe not the best removal, but pretty good. A lot of pivoting and a little bit of cleric, a little bit of hazard removal. Everyone here, even Mr. Rhyme, is still doing something. And then, yeah, Pidgeot's just kind of like a backup attacker if you need a fourth offensive on. So yeah, I don't know. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, this is like classic Couch Cat to pick up like versatile attacker slot one, uh, two other attackers that don't do anything that the first one does, and then just going full support. The only thing I don't like about this team is that it does kind of feel like a Grim Snarl is coming a lot of the time, trying to set up screens, and then you're trying to cheese. But like the cheese is so good that like you're always going to have a cheese that's going to be good into the enemy team. So I don't know. You got like a bunch of real hazard setters. You have some removers. That's actually where I take off a little bit of points. Like your hazard like removal game is actually a little bit weak.
Wait,
It's
did
like
you
Mr.
consider
Rhyme and Clone
Glamora?
Fan, and then you have Gamora. Yeah, I consider Gamora, but through my own time using Gamora, it's kind of hard to find times to actually mortal spin on them on. I feel like, uh,
Yeah,
but it's such a nitpick that
no,
like
I agree. It's
you're
not the
fine because
best
like you're not going to be
removal.
bringing Midget Pidgeot all the time. So, and we did ripe on other teams for being just at that like 120 mark, but Iron Valiant's going to have booster speed so often that's not even like a real
Yeah,
nitpick.
Valiant's gonna boost, and then Gouge and Wellspring are often running a boosting move, so I am not too worried about that. I think having Grimmsnarl or Jirachi be a screen setter is also like totally fine because these mons are so strong that if you get screens up, they can probably win on their own. Not even needing one of the other three, just like one of them can probably win a lot of games. Um, yeah, I like this team strategy of like getting a solid core and then just going all in on support. We'll see. I mean, maybe it doesn't work out as well as we think it will, but I just I struggle to see how this team doesn't at least make playoffs.
Yeah,
Um,
Couchcat's a good coach. He'll find a
yeah,
way to make it work. And then I got
yeah,
my Jirachi bias, so like this is obviously the best team.
yeah. Of course. I do want to give like my one downside. That's not a small nitpick. It's that you only have one water resist. And it's the immunity on Ogrepon, which you're going to lose when you Terra. You're going to only go to a resist. And it's also a mon that once you've Terra'd, it really doesn't want to take Scalds. So I
Hmm.
think an offensive water, or even not even an offensive water, just a guy who wants to spam flip turns, that will give the team trouble. It's just a pretty free click into you to have, to have this that one type that really, really just you don't have a wall for. I think the downside of it stems from like you may have to keep Ogrepon not in Terraform for longer than you'd like to because you don't want them to like win with a Greninja or something, just like as an example. So that is the one thing. That's like I gave it a 9.2. It was the first team I rated because it was the first in the draft order. So I gave it a 9.2, not knowing like that it would be the best team. And then looking back, I was like, yeah, it's definitely the best. But that one thing was like one of the things holding me back from just going all the way to a 10. Because I do think like I bet 1 week that'll be a problem. But if you play well, you can probably handle it. You can also like bring one of your low tier captains and Terra it if they really like maybe the rain team you have to do something like that because that team could be scary for you. But other than that matchup, I think it's probably okay.
I mean, Ogrepon Wellspring Untered is probably like just one of the most rain destroyers there is. So I
Yeah, you
don't
still
know.
have an Ogrepon. It's just I'm saying maybe you want to bring like Vikavolt and go Terra Grass or something like that to just have a little bit more into it. But that's the thing. It's like even the matchup that might be bad is probably still good. So I think we are at the point to wrap it up, Coltrainz. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say.
Not particularly. The only thing like I said, I really wanted to bring back up is like since it was Johto, we were a little bit harsher on like the teams. Like a lot of the teams that were in like the bottom half. If we were like in like a lower division, we probably would have been a little bit uh less tough on overall. Uh, so ultimately, you guys are gonna play well. We're gonna get out there and pick up games here or there. I don't expect anyone to go like 0-9 or whatever. So I'm sure you guys will make it work. Once again, these are all subjective, and you did draft your teams for a reason. You drafted teams that you like, so you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you to Coltrane's for joining me on this video. And we're going to head out now. So see y'all later.
All right, bye bye.